Watch some Netflix. Oh. Oops. There we go. Some Netflix. A little lamb there. Oops. Little vegetable too.
It would not only be.
What's the what? Yeah. All right, I have 7:02. I'm going to reconvene this city council meeting. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Irvin,
Here.
Counselor Hein. Here. Counselor Lammerman,
Here.
Counselor Merida,
Here.
Counselor Settlemeyer,
Here.
Counselor Wilson,
Here.
Mayor Solsby.
Here, I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Items to be added to the agenda. I see none. Appearance of interested citizens. This is a time for citizen comment. The council will first take comments addressing items not listed on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. The council will then take comments addressing action items on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. Individual speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer, provide their name, identify whether they are a city resident, and if so, their ward. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less with council approval. Comments regarding any matter scheduled for a public hearing may be provided only during that hearing. The council will not make any decisions based on public comment. However, staff and council may choose to ask questions or comment following the conclusion of citizen comments. William J. Dyke, please approach the podium. Go ahead and state your name and address, or if you're a city resident.
Well, I was born here. I'm
Okay.
third generation, but I'm without a house right now. So, but anyway, it's so we're doing like not on the agenda, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I just want to bring attention on try to make it short. I am third generation here, and I had a hand in like building a lot of this town. Am I supposed to do something? Or okay. Anyway, my grandfather, what's the chances of it's 3 identical triplet men coming from Sicily, Italy, and they were corresponding with my grandmother and my aunts in 1899, and they came here. But anyway, long story short, with the whole thing, the people that are without housing right now, most of them are people that were born here or grew up here, and like a small percentage is like they were here for 20 years at least or more. But the other people I don't know. I meet people all the time, but people without housing do have a way of like weaving out people that are disrespectful and stuff like that. And they'll, I mean, if they're being disrespectful, they'll tell them to do something somewhere else, but not here. But I just want, there was the freezing shelter or whatever. I think because of hearsay tonight or a misunderstanding, someone said it was going to be 29. Well, it's going to be a lot colder than that. but I think they got their date wrong. It's supposed to be Wednesday, but anyway, I went to school with Tom, that's the sports director, and he used to party with me and do all kinds of, I mean, we were younger, but he said after we had a friend die behind Safeway, he said, I'm gonna put all this energy in a different direction because I ain't gonna let nobody freeze anymore. And I don't think we've had anybody freeze since then, but we don't need to turn our backs on people that have, a lot of people do, but there's a lot of help there, but not enough. And tonight there was volunteers that were ready to help over, and that's misorganization. They weren't on the same page. So there was at least 4 of them, and they were ready to volunteer, and they couldn't. So I just want to say that, and hopefully, we're not enemies. We're not fighting. We're a community. So I just want to say that, and that's.
Thank you. Suzanne Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor Campus. Council, Suzanne Reynolds, born and raised here. My one topic was the warming center, and I have got some information. I'm not clear on how that's working or how to volunteer or anything of that nature. Outside of this meeting, when I leave here, I'm lost of where to go next to help to provide any kind of service. And I'm also curious what happened with the pallet houses. Why they're just going to stay there forever vacant when we have a need for some way to get out of the elements, whether that's 100-degree heat or freezing. Like those buildings are just sitting out there now. And the property that they're on, who's paying for that? Where are we at with that? And what can be done to provide those services moving forward? Just curious, anybody have any? Does anybody have knowledge? Like, what are we doing with those houses? What happened? Why are they not being used? Thank you.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. The city was contracting with a nonprofit to operate the 99 shelter. Funding for that ran out last summer. And the city went through and cleaned out all of the shelters, and the pallet shelters are available. We have talked with a couple of different other nonprofits about utilizing them. To this point, nothing has come of that. But we were careful to use the term that we mothballed them. We did not close it. And, if there is another partner that we could work with in the future, we'd certainly be open to that.
But living at the same location?
Excuse me?
Leaving them at the same location at 99?
Well, at this point, yes,
Okay.
but understand that they can be transported. I mean, they were transported to that site, so they are
Exactly.
movable. If there was another site again that somebody were to approach us, we'd certainly be open to options. I said I've talked to a couple of different nonprofits. We've asked them to provide us with basically a written proposal that can be brought back to the city council for discussion, and to date, no one has.
Thank you.
Counselor Sotomayor.
Your other question of where you can go to try and volunteer, Cottage Grove Community Sharing. If you go to their website and you click around a little bit, they have the sign up sheet there for volunteers.
I don't have access, but I can go there. I'll just.
Do you
go
know where
directly there.
Community Sharing is?
I do, and
Oh, okay.
I know Mike Flex, so
Oh.
I had just questioned the warming center because it's on the news that the Eugene and Springfield Egan warming centers are available, and there was nothing about Cottage Grove. And then when I came in and spoke with some people here, they told me that community sharing is open.
It
for-
just started.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Dale Gangle.
Good evening. I'm a resident here, Ward 1. I'd just like to address this sanctuary city stuff. I mean, the cities in California can pull out of their sanctuary states, city stuff. I think Cottage Grove might be able to do the same thing. This is getting a little crazy. We got our own people here that don't have houses, and we're taking care of people from other countries. That's a little bit wrong. I think our police department, I can't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure they would like to cooperate with the feds too. But, I mean, enough is enough. These people aren't working, not legally anyway. They can't get social security cards. They aren't paying taxes. Most of them are just working off their debts to the coyotes to get them here. It's time we step up and, do the right thing. Take care of our own citizens and forget these other countries for a little while to get on our own feet. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Don Begland.
All right. So I just wanted to, my name is Donald Berglund, and I just want to speak on the homeless issue in Cottage Grove. Seems like, we have an urgent and heart-wrenching issue impacting our community in Cottage Grove, Oregon, the homelessness crisis, particularly among our most vulnerable residents, our elderly, those dealing with mental health challenges, and individuals with physical disabilities. As we approach the colder months, it's crucial to recognize the severe risks that winter poses for these populations. Elderly individuals and those with physical disabilities often struggle to find adequate warmth and safety. This is not just a matter of discomfort, it's a matter of survival. To combat this, we must work tirelessly to establish more emergency shelters that are equipped to meet the unique needs of these groups. These shelters must not just be accessible, but also welcoming and safe, providing a place where they can find warmth, nourishment, and support. Additionally, we cannot ignore the impact of mental health and on the homelessness. Many individuals facing mental health issues find it challenging to navigate the complexities of life, especially in a hostile environment where they need to move constantly and carry their belongings with them every day. To address this, we can establish outreach programs that connect these individuals with mental health services and resources. Local organizations in partnership with mental health professionals can provide on-site support, counseling, and medication management, which are essential for those struggling with mental illness. Our community should also prioritize the creation of supportive housing specifically designed for elderly and disabled individuals experiencing homelessness. These units should be equipped with necessary accessibility features and supportive services, creating an environment where individuals can live with dignity, stability, and a sense of belonging. Furthermore, let's consider the need for secure storage facilities. Many individuals facing homelessness feel anxious and vulnerable about losing their possessions every day if they're not staying with them. Implementing secure, accessible storage options can give them peace of mind, allowing them to seek shelter without the fear of losing what little they do have. Finally, it's essential to foster a sense of compassion in our community, creating awareness campaigns that highlight the stories and struggles of the elderly, mentally unstable, and physically disabled homeless individuals can help combat stigma and encourage community support. We should aim to build alliance among local organizations, businesses, and volunteers to create a robust support system for these vulnerable populations. In closing, as we address the homelessness crisis in Cottage Grove, we must advocate for solutions that cater to the specific needs of the elderly, the mentally unwell, and those with disabilities. Let us stand together as a community, ensuring that every person has access to the care and support they need to thrive. By doing so, we can create a community that's just compassionate and truly inclusive for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Norden.
I'm Donald Norden. I live in Ward 3. Madam Mayor, councilors, let me just change the discussion a bit here. I passed out some sheets, so I don't want to go through all of that. I was walking along around Cottage Grove for walking the dog and amusement along the city, the riversides. And then I came across the plaque and monument that had been put up out there by Woodson Bridge. The people of Cottage Grove honored Mr. Benny Hubble 30 years ago. And part of what he was being honored for was cutting the blackberries around on the banks of the Coast Fork River. Obviously, Benny needs more help than that. And so I'm coming up and offering more help. And we're trying to coordinate with other organizations in the community. And if folks are looking for volunteers opportunities for a different kind of activity, this is what I'm proposing, that we take a wintertime project here. I'm going to be doing it every Saturday for the rest of the winter, from 10 to 2, somewhere along the Coast Fork River. I mean, I do have schedules for that, but these things will change according to whatever volunteers we can dig up. I know Councilor Merriday was there and Councilor Settlemeyer worked on this project before. We have over 100 hours of volunteer labor into this already. And I can see through the rest of the winter, we can get a substantial maxing ability to match some grant using our volunteer labor that I think we will be able to recruit more here. But I do have one more thing. Part of the thing is not just cutting the blackberries, but keeping them pruned. In order to do that, my suggestion is that we'll put up tool stations all along the riverbank. This is similar to the library program we have in town, the little libraries. People can take books out and return them. This would be putting little hand clippers in pouches along the way. And we'll need permissions to do that on city properties. There are a few places it makes pretty obvious, but we'll need some other permissions, or someone else will have to kind of look at it and say, okay, what's good? What's a good place to do this? So this discussion will have to go on staff level, I assume. And I thank you for your attention. Right.
Thank you. Resolutions and ordinances. Resolution amending the comprehensive fee schedule. Temporary work unit manager, Melanie Clemmer. Did I skip one? Oh, sorry. Consent agenda. Servin.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the council approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second? We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right. Resolutions and ordinances amending the comprehensive fee schedule. Temporary work unit manager, Melanie Clemmer.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Honor, City Councilors. The City Council has established a comprehensive fee schedule, which was created to include a listing of the fees for various goods or services provided by the city. This resolution amends 2 sections in the comprehensive fee schedule. Section 6, planning, was amended to change the following. Move the type 3 site design review and type 3 subdivision application types. Do a type 2 application pursuant to Senate Bill 1537 and change the fees to align with similar type 2 applications, as well as capturing the amount of staff time needed to process these applications. Both these fees are set to be $800. Add a type 2 replat application and assign similar type 2 application fee, which this one will be assigned $400. And then we will just remove a duplicate type 1 floodplain development fee under the type 1 application fee schedule. For your information, the systems development charges were adjusted January 1st, 2025, pursuant to section 15.16.040 of the municipal code. The changes in the SDCs are noted for your information and codification purposes. The fee increases are based on the construction cost index figures published in the Engineering News Record magazine, ENR, for 20 cities. The ENR construction cost index rose 0.9% from December 2023 to December 2024. The resolution increases the SDC fees by 0.9% to reflect the increase in construction costs. It's the recommendation of staff to council to adopt the resolution amending the comprehensive fee schedule.
Ms. Roberts, do we have a resolution number?
Resolution number 2160.
Councilor Irvin.
Mayor, would put this item before the council and move that the council adopt resolution 2160, amending the comprehensive fee schedule.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Any discussion? Any questions? No, I see.
Yeah.
Counselor Wilson.
I know that the fee schedule has already been changed, adopted as the first of the year. That's something that can't be taken back at this point, but I did want to just put it on record that the practice of when the calendar year changes, the fees go up based off of studies that don't necessarily apply to this city. I think is a practice that is bureaucracy run amok. And I think it's something that we need to look at down the road. And I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Settlemeyer.
Am I correct in remembering that some of the fees went down with this change?
Your Honor, Counselor Settlemeyer, no, they all were increased by 0.09%, all of just the SDC fees.
Except that the planning fees actually are going down. So the type 2, changing from type 3 to type 2 fees are going down. So that might be what you're remembering.
Sorry, yeah, forgive me. I was focused on SDCs.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the planning fees, because they were changing from type 3 to type 2, went down due to the fact that we don't have to run ads and there's no planning commission. So there's less staff time, less paper. So we lowered the costs on those application fees. Yeah.
I would love to address the SDC comment just to provide a little bit of education, because SDCs are heavily guided by statute. And so the city's increase on an annual basis has to be tied to a CPI index. It has to be, and the local one that everybody used to be tied to disappeared. So now we have to use this West Coast Seattle CPI. Unfortunately, it's something that is in statute and then it's reflected in your code, and just allows you to, it's the only way to allow your fees to maintain an amount to address the capital improvements you've identified on your capital improvement plan, otherwise known as a CIP. So not to undermine your comment, it's a really valid comment, but I just wanted everyone here who's new to understand just a little bit about SDCs. They're really misunderstood. I'd be happy to talk about them at a future date, not take up more of your time now.
Thank you, Carrie. Anyone else? No, we have a motion with the second. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Merida,
Aye.
Counselor Settlemeyer,
Yes.
Counselor Lammerman,
Aye.
Counselor Urban,
Aye.
Counselor Hein, Counselor Wilson.
Aye.
Mayor Soulsby.
Aye. Unanimous. Business from the City Council. Award of Main Street Revitalization Project Contract, Public Works Director, Faye Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I believe City Manager Sauerwein was going to kind of give a quick little Main Street presentation before we discuss the award of the contract.
Yeah, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. We have a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know whether it's been passed out to you or not, but we'll pass that around. And also, everybody in the audience on the council, there is a map that shows the project. I think there's a copy of it floating around back there. If anybody would like a copy, please take one. And if we run out, I don't know how many we have back there. We certainly can provide more, and they'll be available on the city's website. Grab a couple for the council as well up there. If we've got any more back there. Well, just to jump right into this, our goal for this project is that we maintain access to businesses and buildings during construction. And we also want to provide regular and frequent communication with the businesses and building owners during construction. To that end, we've scheduled our next meeting with all of the property owners and the businesses for February 11th at 5:30 p.m. And I think notice was being given to all the downtown businesses that will be impacted, but certainly if you're interested, you're certainly welcome to attend that meeting. Just want to give you the project timeline. We start out with mobilization for the project. We then are going to do a water line and a storm drain line replacement. And then we really get into the meat of the project. And if you look on the map, you'll see that there are red, blue, orange, and green lines. I'll talk about those in a moment. But those are the 4 phases that we're breaking the project down into. And Fay deserves credit for coming up with these 4 colors. I think it's a really good way to describe the project. I like it so much that I'm going to steal it and use it myself in the future. After we go through the project, there's a couple really important logistical issues that I want to talk about, just how traffic's going to flow on Main Street and also the sidewalks that are in front of businesses and how those are going to be replaced. So just to acquaint yourself a little bit with the map, I'm going to stand up here so I'll talk loud so you can hear me whether I have a microphone or not. The project starts over on this end, which is where 9th Street and Highway 99 are, goes down Main Street till we get to the river and the bridge at the river at this end of Main Street. Right here in the middle, right there is where City Hall is. So does that kind of acclimate everybody to the way the project's set up? Great. So let's start out with mobilization. The very first thing that we're going to do, on to the next slide. Yeah. The very first thing that we're going to be doing is on February 10th, that large orange rectangle that you see across the street from City Hall, that's going to be shut off and fenced off so that the developer can use that to store their construction equipment and also their materials as the project's progressing. We're doing that really for 2 reasons. First is it allows them to have easy access to their equipment, but it also allows us to have it off of Main Street, which is going to allow for better traffic and movement on Main Street so that they can have that location to do it. So then on February 17th, a week later, the project mobilization begins and we have our big construction kickoff. The first part of the step in the project, starting in February and going through March, is we'll be building a water line and then a storm drain line. So we'll be starting over at the 9th Street end and we'll be getting the new water line put in. City staff then has to disinfect the water line and also, of course, install the new connections with the new water line to all of the businesses along the street. Then at about mid-March, we'll be starting in on a storm drain construction project. Now, during this phase, westbound traffic will be happening during the day during construction, and we're hoping that we'll be able to open up Main Street eastbound as well after hours and on weekends. But that's just during this phase of the construction. So like I said, after we finish those 2 utility lines, that's when we start moving into really the meat of the project. The first phase is going to be on the south side of Main Street from the bridge over on the left, if you're looking at your map. And we'll be doing from Bridge to 6th Street, and then also from 7th to 8th Street. So you can see there's the red line, a long red line, and then there's a break of blue, and then there's a shorter red line. The reason that we're doing that is because we want to leave 6th Street open for cross traffic. So while the construction's going on, you can still get back and forth across Main Street on 6th Street. By the way, I'm throwing out a lot of dates that are included in this presentation. Anybody ever hire a contractor to remodel your kitchen? The dates that you get from the contractor, these are those kind of dates. So, you know, it's a little conceptual. So let's move on to the next phase, move on to the blue phase. The blue phase, where we pick up those 2 sections of the south side of Main Street from 6th Street to 7th and 8th to 9th. And again, that will complete the work over on the south side of the project and allow us to move on to the north side. So about the middle of the summer, we'll be moving to the north side of the project. And again, we'll start with the long orange line that goes from Bridge to 6th Street, then a smaller orange line going from 7th to 8th Street. Again, we're leaving 6th Street open so people can drive back and forth across Main Street during construction. And then again, we have the green phase. The green phase, hopefully this fall, in October, we'll start doing the last piece of the north side of the street, doing from 6th to 7th and then 8th to 9th, with the goal being to complete the project by the end of this year. So that's the timeline for the project in a nutshell. And like I said, there's just a couple of logistical issues I also want to talk about. Starting April 15th, as soon as we're done with the water and sewer lines, eastbound traffic will be closed throughout the project construction. And if you look at the map over there by 9th Street and Highway 99, you can see a green line and a purple line. And then if you look at the other end where we're crossing the bridge over to the river, you can see the green and purple line again. What this should show you is you can go westbound depending on which side of the street we're working on. You cannot go eastbound during the construction phase. So, let you, kind of plan your trips accordingly, but also understand that there's still going to be places for you to go back and forth across Main Street, so you can get that direction as well. And finally, I just want to talk a little bit about sidewalk construction. One of the biggest impacts, and like I said at the very beginning, our goal is to minimize the impact on businesses and to make sure that people still have access to businesses and restaurants downtown during construction. So to do a sidewalk in front of a business, and the contractor, by the way, is going to talk to every individual business and building owner separately, because every business and every building on Main Street is a little bit different. But we're hoping that when they remove the old sidewalk and they bring in new rock and new gravel so that people can walk into the business again, we're hoping that's only going to take a couple hours up to a half day, that people are actually not going to be able to get into that business. And then we're going to come along afterwards and do the concrete work. And if you ever had a new driveway put in or watched a sidewalk get put in, you know that it takes about a day to get the concrete poured and at least another day or so for it to cure. So, we're talking about a 2-day period where you won't be able to walk on that portion of the sidewalk. Now, again, this is why we're working with individual businesses to see what their needs are, because some of the businesses downtown are closed on Monday and Tuesday, or they're closed on Sunday and Monday. And maybe we can time the construction in front of those buildings and businesses so that, it won't impact them on days that they wouldn't be open anyway. So really, that's the project, and be happy to take any questions the city council might have.
Any questions? Counselor Hink.
I have a question. When the project complete, how long will, Wildish is the top bidder at this point, how long will they be like maintaining or responsible for repairs, or if they get something wrong, like how long after the completion of project are they responsible or liable to make those necessary?
Director Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Hank, it's my understanding that it's a year period, so there's a warranty period of a year. And so I'm guessing, depending on the circumstances, it could extend further if we're having to do repairs during that period that extend into that 1-year warranty.
Any other questions? Counselor Merryday.
It's more of a comment. I represent the city on the Cottage Grove Community Development Corporation, which is an interface for our local businesses. And Addition has spoken to many business owners personally. And, naturally, everyone is anxious about what the construction will have the effect on their business and commerce. The city is going out of their way to ensure that, we're doing everything to allow these much needed changes to go forward. When I first came to town, they were talking about it, and that was over 12, 15 years ago, something like that. So it is exciting to see it coming to fruition, but there is a concern that what will this do to my business? And that's where the emphasis on we're not closing downtown, that these phased stagings of the construction that the city manager described is an effort to minimize the impact on the businesses. However, some people are squeamish when any type of construction goes. And if you, oh, I will just avoid downtown. Well, this is where the citizens can do their part to step up and make an effort to go and support the businesses on Main Street. And there will be access except for those 1 to 2 days when the concrete is curing that could potentially affect the business, but again, will hopefully be mitigated by their scheduling through the contractor. So we can do our part from the city side, but the citizens can also do their part to go and support our downtown. And I encourage each Cottage Grover to do that. Shop local, keep it local, support local business. They're your friends and neighbors.
I'd like to thank city staff for all your outreach and hard work on this project. We really appreciate it. All the downtown businesses have shown deep appreciation for your hard work. Anyone else? You. All right.
So,
Ms. Conley, for this next item, I am a downtown business owner and our son owns one of the companies that put a bid in. It's not low bid, but I should recuse myself, correct?
Pardon me. I just want to make sure that Mindy has both of those bases for your declaration of an actual conflict of interest. And then, yes, I believe that you're not only not participating in the discussion or vote, but you're going to leave the room. Okay, thanks.
Ms. Roberts, did you get that? Okay. I'll release this to the council president. Counselor.
So we are on item 11A, the award for Main Street Revitalization Project contract. Director Stewart.
thank you. Council Vice President Urban. I just wanted to add a couple of items before I get into the topic. I wanted to recognize we have Colin Cunningham with us this evening. He, I believe, is going to be our point person with Wildish. When they were awarded or saw that they were the low bidder, I believe, and hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, he was actually thinking about retiring, but because they got this project, I think he's committed to see this to the end, which greatly appreciate because I've worked with Colin over the years, the last 8 years, in various different projects, and a very excellent individual to work with and company. So, and he's available for any questions or concerns that may come up. I'd also like to introduce Julie Leland. Julie is with Branch Engineering. There are engineers of record for the city, and she is, I believe, our designated project manager for this project. So she'll be boots on the ground a lot too during the process. And one thing I did want to add to the conversation is that we are committed to get information out in every way that we possibly can. I'd like to point out that Sean and I, she has been working very hard to create literature and have it ready to go. Once we get the approval to award the contract, that's the next thing is we're going to ship out letters. We're going to announce that we have a meeting on February 11th to invite the business owners to come learn, meet Mr. Cunningham, and just start that relationship. We've got handbooks that's been created, web presence. We have our texting item, email, Friday update email list. So we're going to do everything that we possibly can. And I just want to encourage anybody that's hearing anything or concerns. I'm ready to act at any moment to try to address their concerns In fact, last week, one of our business owners now was getting a little bit concerned about, hey, I have delivery trucks that deliver product to my house, my business that's not going to be able to do that on this project. How are we going to address that? And by the end of the week, we had a wonderful resolution that actually I think helps two business owners on Main Street and meets that need. So we're here to make sure that this works. We're going to brainstorm and do just exactly what Councilor Merriday said. We're going to try to draw people downtown. We want people to come down. Maybe we have a treasure hunt. Come to a treasure hunt. You can, enter your name in for a prize. I had a wonderful conversation earlier today with Cameron concerned about his car show and his cruise and his various different activities that take place. And really, we want to find solutions that meet his need, but also encourage people to come downtown too. So I think we're going to see some really neat things and do everything in our ability to make sure that this project is successful. And when we get done, we have a great process that we can stand behind, and we can also have an excellent project to deliver in the end. So with that, on November 8th, 2024, the city posted an invitation to bid for the Main Street Revitalization Project. The city requested bids for improvements of the existing East Main Street that include water line, stormwater installation, grading, asphalt, paving, concrete sidewalks, concrete pavement, signing, striping in Cayuga Lane County. The work involves excavating, grading, stormwater service pipe, water service line installation, and once again, concrete paving, electrical work, tree planting, signage, and striping. Sealed bids were due by 2 p.m. on January 7th, 2025 at the Cayuga City Hall. The intent to bid was published on November 8th, 2024 in the Daily Journal of Commerce. 5 bids were received. All the bids were reviewed and found to be complete and responsive. The bids were as. So these are broke down into 2 alternatives. So the first, everyone had to provide bids on a base bid, and then the city had the ability to choose alternative 1 or alternative 2. We had to award one of the alternatives because if we hadn't, we wouldn't have been able to have a concrete or paved surface to drive on. So that's the intent of the 2 options. We proposed 2 options because we didn't know if paving was going to be less expensive than concrete. We just really didn't know. And it also, we were shooting in the dark and didn't know what our bids were going to come in. And we also wanted to maybe potentially have an alternative that was a little less expensive so that we could do the project in the amount of money that was allotted. So that being said, with the base bid and bid number 1, which is paving of Main Street, Wildest Construction was the low bidder at $5,099,415, followed by BAB Construction at $5,142,879, Pacific Excavation at $5,405,939, Brown Contracting at $5,719,812, and finally Knife River was at $5,727,379. So alternative 1 was paving with paving product, and then alternative 2 was to concrete the travel lanes. And once again, Wildish Construction was the low bidder at $5,155,532. That was second at $5,412,656. Pacific Excavation was $5,614,545. Brown Contracting, $5,877,284. And finally, Knife River Corporation at $6,176,289. So Branch Engineering is recommending that the contract be awarded to Wildish Construction in the amount of $5,155,532. This includes the base bid plus alternative 2. I would just share with you that alternative 2 was fairly close to alternative one in, within, it looks like approximately almost $60,000 or $50,000. And for $50,000 more, I will share with you that the maintenance and the longevity of concrete over asphalt will probably more than pay for itself over the life of expectancy of that project. So it was kind of a small upgrade to have a better project. So our recommendation to City Council is to move to award Main Street Revitalization Project contract to Wildish Construction Company in the amount of $5,155,532 and authorize the city manager to sign the contract and all associated documents. I share with you that this city of Cottage Grove was awarded $5 million from the Economic Development Administration. That is funding the majority of it. The city has a 20% required match. So whenever the final project costs are completed, as long as they're under the 6.25 total cost for the project, this project will be paid for by our required match and the EDA grant that we received. Questions?
There's no questions. I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we, as a council, adopt or award the bid to Wildish Construction with alternative 2.
Do you like the amount in that?
Of $5,155,000.
So one of the, typically the line under the recommendation, you can just substitute. I make a motion that the city council, so they get the authorization to sign and the amount and everything. Oh, you want to amend that? Or you want to get it?
Go ahead.
Councilor Lammerman? Well, so do we technically have a motion? Do you want to amend your motion?
Yes. I'd like to amend the motion with the city council adopt. Where am I at here? We are not where we were supposed to. Okay. Wait. All right. Had the wrong piece of paper in front of me. So thanks. Okay, so move that the city council award the Main Street Revitalization Project contract to Wildish Construction in the amount of $5,155,532 and authorize the city manager to sign the contract and all associated documents.
All right, we have a motion.
A second.
And a second. And you do not need an individual roll call for this one, I believe. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right.
Yay.
I know this is momentous. This is big. So we've
2 years
appreciate
to get
that.
to this point.
Plus the 15 or whatever from the start. Well, I just reiterate Councilor Mary Day's comments to don't be shy to come downtown, frequent the businesses. We'll make all the accommodation possible. And love the idea of incentives to draw folks down in this process. So we really do appreciate our business community, and let's get to the other end of it. Well, that takes us to another major improvement topic, the award of the Cleveland Street Capital Improvement Project contract.
I'm so sorry.
You have
I'm
a
so
question?
sorry to interrupt. The mayor announced an actual conflict with regard to the prior matter. Does she need to come and announce another actual conflict with regard to this matter, or should we retrieve her?
I think probably so that we have it for the record, it might be best to do that.
Okay.
Most of us
I didn't
have that
know,
understanding.
But I
Yeah.
understand you were prepared to continue on.
Said there was 2 items, but I believe she was talking about being in the class and yeah. It'll be the same 2.
Oh, exactly.
So Mayor, we're
Which
now
were
at item number two,
we?
which is the
Award of
Cleveland
the
Street.
Cleveland Street Capital Improvement Project contract. So
Just brought you in to announce an actual conflict that I understand.
So-
Which, just to
same
describe it,
conflict of interest that our son's company put a bid in on this project.
is he, and that company is not the awardee?
No.
Not the awardee?
No,
Okay,
not the
all right. So that would be a financial detriment to her son's business if, to move forward with this next vote. Thanks so much.
You don't have to put that in the motion, fortunately. All right, so we are now on this item. The award of the Cleveland Street Capital Improvement Project contract. And Mr. Seward, you have this item as well.
Thank you, Counselor. So just a little background to the council, and most folks are fairly new to this. Back a year ago, the city worked hard and was able to get included in a bill that was passed at the state legislature 1530, which appropriated infrastructure dollars to projects that jurisdictions had. And we proposed the Cleveland Street Improvement Project to help facilitate development of the 35 acres of residential land that the city had acquired when they purchased the what we call Project Sparrow, with the Cleveland property. It's a total of 61 acres. So once we that bill was signed and approved, and we were approved for our project, Branch Engineering went put their head down and immediately went to designing the water sewer storm infrastructure to be placed into Cleveland Street, and a proposed location for extension of 4th Street. So with that, I'll go into the item. So on December 13th, 2024, the city posted an invitation to bid for the Cleveland Street Capital Improvement Project. The city requested bids for improvements of existing Cleveland Street from South 6th Street, approximately 1,400 feet to its terminus, along with extending the water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure. The work involves saw cutting, excavation, trenching, removal, compaction, construction of roadbed, asphalt paving, concrete sidewalks, pedestrian bridge, an ADA ramps, concrete curb, gutter, stormwater pipes, stormwater manhole, wastewater pipes and service laterals, wastewater manhole, water main extension services, and site restoration. Sealed bids were due at 2 p.m. on January 15th, once again at the Kaiser Grove City Hall. The intent to bid was published on December 13th, 2024 in the Daily Journal of Commerce. And again, we received 5 bids for this project, and all bids were reviewed by Branch and found to be complete and responsive. The bids were: the low bidder was BAB Construction at $2,052,998.57. Wildish Construction was at $2,083,254. Pacific Excavation was $2,127,811.10. H&J Construction was $2,304,789. And finally, Pacific North Construction was $2,344,889. As you can see, those bids were fairly close in bidding. I mean, low bidder beat out the next bid by $30,000. So Branch did a great job, and we had some really competitive bids. Branch Engineering is also recommending that the contract be awarded to BAB Construction in the amount of $2,052,998.57. Before I get into the recommendation, I would share, you might see that this is under the $3 million appropriation that is coming from the state. So I'll share with you, Branch Engineering is once again got their pencils working, and they're in the process of designing a package sewer lift station that we can purchase under this state funding, and also some additional water, sewer, and storm lines in some of the other platted streets that are part of this project. So we're able to get quite a bit more done than what we anticipated originally with this money and in this project. So the other key thing that I think I wanted to point out was that unless there is a bill passed extending this appropriations into the next biennium, the money that's been allocated to the city must be spent by June 30th of 2025. Cautiously optimistic that there'll be an extension, but our contractor in preliminary conversations feels very strongly that they'll be able to get the design work installed during that period of time. Not barring anything unforeseen like another 25 inches of rain or whatever that might hinder that process. So with that, the recommendation is that the city council move to award the Cleveland Street Capital Improvement Project contract to BAB Construction in the amount of $2,052,998.57 and authorize the city manager to sign the contract and all associated documents. And I pretty much explained where the funding was coming for this project. So, any questions?
Questions?
Again, more of a comment that this is an effort for the city to help facilitate providing much needed housing to our community, that housing is a critical need for citizens in our town. And this is a way that where the land had sat fallow and was not attractive to development through the city's efforts, and particularly with this award of the grant to help incentivize the developers to develop the housing needed, and particularly in the affordable range. It's a real win for our city that it's coming together.
Questions or Councilor Lemmerman?
I'd like to make a motion that council award BAB Construction the Cleveland Street Capital Improvement Project contract in the amount of $2,052,998.57 and authorize the city manager to sign the contract and all associated documents.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A second. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks.
Concerns of council. Counselor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, thank you. To address some of the concerns from the citizens in the audience, is there anything we can do to maybe utilize some of those shelters down at the 99th Street site and look at how many people we have using that Dusk Till Dawn site and move enough shelters up to accommodate those individuals so that way they have a way to get out of the elements with the temperatures being as low as they are?
Well, as I said earlier, we have talked with a couple of different nonprofits, and they have said that they may be interested in utilizing the shelters in one way or another. And we have asked them to provide the city with a proposal for how they would manage them, just as a previous nonprofit was doing prior to the funding running out.
So we can't just move them up there temporarily until we figure that out. That way, and then still utilize them as the Dusk Till Dawn in theory, to where they have to be out come morning and they can't go back in until night.
Well, I think that's definitely a conversation the city council could have. That's not direction staff has received previously.
Anyone else? Counselor Merryday.
Yes, I would like to also echo that I think we've expressed our policy towards the unhoused as a work in progress, and that it may be time for the council to evaluate what has happened since the changes and how we should go forward. Because I do want to compliment the people that volunteered to operate the shelter in the last 2 nights. It was a real relief for people to be able to get out of the cold. And we did have a medically fragile person that was completely disoriented through the cold, and an elderly gentleman that eventually had to be transported medically. But the people are out in the harsh elements. It's easy to think or forget the people in the better weather, but when it's really, really bad, then a lot of people's compassion comes forward. If you would be available to serve in a warming shelter, if you contact Community Sharing and put your name on the volunteer list, that would help be having a pool of volunteers. So when the weather does dip down, that we can provide emergency relief from the harsh cold. But yeah, it's time, I think, maybe to add that into our hopper to readdress where we are with addressing unhoused in Cottage Grove. Thank you.
Counselor Lammerman.
I know generally we're supposed to address the council, but I can't remember your name, ma'am, but Suzanne. I kind of felt bad when you were standing up there, but generally, from my understanding, we're not supposed to address your questions while you're up there at that particular moment. But I don't want anybody to feel bad, like we're ignoring any of you guys just because we're not responding to you. Generally, the concerns of council is when we can actually address what you're speaking about. But don't feel like we're not listening to you, because we are.
Counselor Stoudemire.
I would just like to echo the idea that I believe it was the last meeting where I was virtual. There were people who were asking questions, what is our stance on providing help for the unhoused? And it's just, yeah, it would be nice for everyone to understand and clearly and be transparent where we are with that. And if there is a process, or we're now housed in, we're settled with what we're doing or not doing.
Counselor Urban.
Well, I would concur. Is my understanding that part of the retreat, I don't know if we're going somewhere, if we retreat, we're retreating, advancing something, is that this is a topic that we were going to discuss. And so I look forward to that. And that certainly needs to be looked at again. What are we going to do? What is available right now within the city? Clearly better messaging, it sounds like, is warranted for this warming shelter that's in place at the moment. And then what we do with our existing assets and how we plan for it. So I absolutely look forward to having that conversation and charting that direction forward. I have another thing, but I saw you wanted to maybe chime in on before. I just want to recognize the Lincoln Middle School wrestling team who won the Valley League District Championships on Saturday. For the second consecutive year, these kids have really put in the work, and wrestling's not the easiest sport. Take a lot of losses, but seeing them develop over the season and the seasons has been really, really cool. So just want to recognize them. I'm proud of them.
Counselor Stoudemire.
It occurred to me earlier, Mr. Stewart was talking about some kind of communication links we have as a city. Is it appropriate to ask if we can just announce the idea of Community Sharing is looking for volunteers? Is that something that we as a group can just nudge and suggest, or is that something that should be an agenda item in the future?
Well, I think you just did.
Wonderful.
Well, I would just like to acknowledge that tomorrow is City Day at the Capitol, and there's several of us going and planning on speaking with our legislators there on behalf of a lot of the decisions that have been made at the state level that have impacted especially hard small cities like Cottage Grove that, you know, a lot of the House bills that they've passed on weren't working well in big cities, and it can be detrimental on a large scale in such a small community. And I also want to acknowledge that the homelessness crisis has not always been at the hands of municipalities. And that's what a lot of people don't quite understand, is that cities on a large scale are not equipped to handle. We don't have the social services, the drug services that a lot of the shelters at a state level. A lot of our mental facilities have been closed down at a state level. And I personally feel in a lot of ways our state has abandoned us. And that is something I personally will be trying to get across in a very well-meaning way on behalf of all of our citizens to our state lawmakers, both on behalf of the homeless population and our own city population, because it's not fair to either side for us to shoulder it as a small city especially. And so I'm excited to meet with all these lawmakers and see if we can come to some common ground, because I think it's vital for all of us. And to let you know that we are looking at that, but it is, you've seen, Suzanne, what happened when the city did try. And so it's not fair on either side, but it's something that we're going to have to come together with our lawmakers and figure out a solution for this, because it's a lot of a social issue that we're not equipped really to take care of. So anyone else want to speak? Counselor Wilson?
Yes. Not sure if this is the right time to bring this up. As far as just letting the public know that the school board is doing some things right now. And I met with the school board, and they have put out advertisement for set the criteria and put out advertisement for a new superintendent. The advertising began nationwide on Wednesday last week, and they have I don't know if I should put out the salary range, but it's public information. So they are advertising the position in order to try to hit the mid-range or the median salary for a district of our size. They're advertising the position in a range of 180,000 to 220,000 a year. And it's a shocking figure to many, and it was a shocking figure to the school board members as well. It was actually recommended higher than that, and they settled on that figure as to get closer to the middle. So at this point, the South Lane School District's salary range is at the very bottom of the pay scale for a district of our size. Just wanted to put that out there to keep an eye out on the school board side of things. There are citizens as well. And I believe there is a school board election coming up in May. So if anybody is looking to contribute to the welfare of the students of our community.
Thank you, Counselor Wilson, for that report. This is a brand new committee that council has, not committee, a liaison committee that Counselor Wilson is part of, to go sit in and report back to council. It's something that we have not done in the past, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Settlemyer.
Yeah, I was assigned to go and represent us by the mayor for Lane Regional Air Pollution Association. And I just kind of asked the group, is there something that they want me to take? Because evidently my first meeting will be Thursday when they're doing their big budgeting discussion and goals for the year. So if anybody has suggestions other than collect and bring back what they are doing, I'd appreciate it.
Counselor Irvin.
So just in response of that, as with really any other organization, I think is if you can extract what is the value that's being added, what benefit does it have for the citizens of Cottage Grove now and potentially into the future, because I know it is kind of a development asset. But the way to articulate that and would be fantastic.
And to echo Counselor Irvin's reply to that, as we talked about in our agenda session, it's because El Rapa is the last one in the state, or the only one in the state of its kind. And so just what the benefits are to us. Thank you. All right, anyone else? Counselor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, quick question for our city manager and attorney. What is in our purview to possibly look at moving up a meeting to see about what we want to do on addressing the warming shelter issue and all that before our retreat? Because that's in the beginning of March. And I know beginning of next week, we're looking at possibly high teens overnight. Try to see if there's something we can do to kind of move up a timeline on that to try to address some of the community concerns on that.
Counselor Lammerman, you know that community sharing has a warming shelter. Okay.
Yeah, to the mayor's point, there is a warming shelter being offered by a nonprofit corporation within the city. And we did send information out about that during one of our Friday reports. So, again, as has been said by several people, we're making every effort to get as much information out in many different ways as possible. To answer your question directly, we could add an item to a future agenda, but I would suggest that this is more of a policy level discussion that needs to take place. And it would be more appropriate to have that policy level discussion at the city council retreat. And as I said, the immediate concerns appear to be being addressed by a local nonprofit.
City department reports. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, absolutely. Counselor Sott.
But maybe getting with what Counselor Lammerman was talking about, is that what a work session suggestion might introduce to our schedule? Is that a possibility?
Again, it certainly can be added as a work session item in the future. Our calendar, I will tell you, is fairly full for the next couple of months. And as I said, this is kind of a policy discussion that needs to take place in a format for a policy discussion.
Is that what I'm...
Yeah, to answer your question directly, yes. But also understand, like I said, our agendas are pretty full for the next couple of months.
So I'm hearing we kind of need to coalesce on what is the magnitude of and urgency of this matter, because that would dictate if we clear a schedule and talk, if we need to take immediate action. I'm hearing that the emergency is being handled by a nonprofit. I'm interested to hear to what capacity. Is it enough to serve, are there enough beds? There was a call for volunteers. Do we need to escalate that? So maybe we could get, as a council, if there's consensus, some better information about what is the status of the warming shelter in its existence, what are its hours, what are its needs, and so that we can have some sort of to figure out if we need to stopgap something, we'll call an emergency meeting or something. But I think we're all willing to meet the need. We just need to know how urgent is it, and we're all willing to act, I think.
Well, I can certainly invite the folks from community sharing to come to a future council meeting and report back to the council. And as I said earlier, we've had conversations with them about utilizing the pallet shelters. It's my understanding they're going through kind of their own internal processes of whether that's something that's going to work for them or not. And I don't want to speak to that. I'd rather they spoke to it themselves. But I can certainly invite them to a future council meeting.
Counselor Merida.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe I can provide some information. I volunteered in the past with Beds for Freezing Nights, so naturally applied and served as a volunteer with the current warming shelter. And the real need at the moment is volunteers. It's not being operated tonight due to a lack of volunteers signing up for a shift. But it's also, getting it re-engaged, re-going is always difficult. So anything that we can do to steer volunteers while the cold weather is with us, I think would be the most valuable thing we could do as a council, is to urge dissemination of the need for volunteers and where to send the volunteers to make sure that we provide the shelter in the coldest of nights. And I think they have enough a space to handle up to, I believe, 15 people currently, and it hasn't hit that yet. But I think as it develops through the cold season, volunteers would be the thing most needed.
Do you know anything of the volunteer criteria so that people hearing this wouldn't self-exclude them?
Currently, just a willingness to go and sign up and commit to being there. There's a list of understandings that you sign that states the volunteer criteria, but there is no background check or other requirements.
There used to be a background check. I don't know if community sharing is requiring that. Ms. Wheeldryer. Do you know if there's a background check? There's not. There was, and there's not for this one. Okay. Counselor Sotomayor.
And as far as what might be handy is use that city communication link to say when the housing is open. The overnight, when it is working, would be very beneficial, I think, too. Like we were saying, it's just getting started in it. If that can happen. There's a communication link somewhere there.
Suzanne. Thank you. All right.
And they shared that on Facebook.
Okay, thank you. All right. City department reports, Mr. Sauerwein.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. We have two department reports this evening from Public Works and Community Development. So, Faye, who wants to go first?
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, members of council. So not too long ago, we had the opportunity to introduce ourselves to you and what the Community Development Department office does. So I'll provide a brief recap of our department. We provide planning, building, and code compliance services. Our department is driven by and enforces the rules of code, the rules and codes outlined in the OAR, ORFs, the state building codes, and chapter 8 and 14 of our city's municipal code, which is the nuisance and development code respectively. Excuse me. We have 5 full-time staff members, which consists of Jason Bush, he's our certified building official and commercial inspector and plans examiner. Brian Bennett, A-level electrical inspector, residential plans examiner and inspector. Myself, I am also a residential plans examiner and inspector, as well as the senior permit specialist. I am also currently acting as the interim community development director, also known as temporary work unit manager. Lenny Crow, associate planner and floodplain manager, and last but not least, Tina McDonald, planning and building permit specialist and recording. Our planning department provides planning and floodplain services to Drain and helps Crestwell with processing and issuing their floodplain permits. Our building department provides plan review and inspection services to Crestwell, Coburg, and since our last update 6 months ago, these are some of the things our department has. The planning department. Staff has processed 37 land use applications, held 4 planning commission meetings, 2 historic preservation commission meetings, and 3 urban forestry committee meetings. They also conducted 17 planning inspections since August. The bicycle and pedestrian master plan was approved by the planning commission on September 18th and brought to council on October 14th, where you all approved it and it was adopted into the comprehensive. Associate Planner Crow has attended 6 classes regarding FEMA's PICM and submitted to FEMA the options selected by Cottage Grove, Crestwell, and Drain at the end. Our floodplain managers retained our community rating system class 6, ensuring a 20% discount for flood insurance holders in our city. And I'm sorry, some of these are redundant of the mayor's state of the city, but planning staff submitted applications for the city's 31st Tree City USA Award and the 8th Growth Award, which are pending approval. We are looking forward to receiving recognition again for maintaining our urban forest. Staff hosted the 9th annual Emergency Preparedness Fair with a total of 27 booths and approximately 2,000 attendees. They rounded up help from staff members from the Public Works Department, Building Department, and members of the Urban Forestry Committee. Also, rumor has it is the biggest party in the park to date. The planning staff is grateful to all who volunteered their time to make it a success. Our planning and building specialist, Tina McDonald, attended the Oregon Permit Technicians Annual Spring and Fall Education Conferences, where she had the opportunity to network with other permit techs and permit specialists from all over Oregon while learning new skills and keeping up with code changes. Tina is also working on finalizing the first quarterly riparian newsletter of 2025. This one is focusing on winter weather preparedness, the dangers of flooding, and how to help maintain the riparian habitat. She will be mailing 799 newsletters before the end of the month. Community development staff notarized 96 documents. That's an average of 16 per month, which equals about 4 per week. The building department. So our building department has had a very busy past 6 months. They issued 336 permits and conducted 645 inspections just in Cottage Grove. In Crestwell, they issued 158 permits and conducted 275 inspections. Coburg had 56 permits issued and 309 inspections performed. Lastly, in Bonita, they had 86 issued permits and did 261 inspections. The building official recently had to issue one stop work order at the Cottage Grove Hospital. They were building a large awning / patio cover without any permits in place. They didn't think they knew. In addition to doing inspections and plan reviews, Jason also assists customers by performing job site walkthroughs. Oftentimes this helps expedite the plan review process for folks. On average, he does about 4 to 5 walkthroughs per month combined in all 4 cities. To date, they have issued 9 new house permits in the Sunset Park subdivision, with a 10th currently in plan review. With 20 lots to be developed, we're halfway through. This subdivision is going up really quick. You have also probably noticed that the Pine Springs apartment complex development has nearly all of their footing and foundation walls poured. This is exciting progress as the building department issued all 16 building permits just back at the end of November. So I, for one, am eager to see the walls start going up. And finally, code compliance. Staff is still handling code compliance cases as they come in. This process includes site inspections, letters of notice of a violation to the occupant and the owner, and sometimes leads to a warrant to start the abatement process. Since we are complaint driven, and we are seeing consistent amount of complaints come. This time of year, it's primarily complaints about trash and debris and the occasional rooster, with summertime being the busy season for tall grass. So if there aren't any questions, that's all I have.
Questions? Job well done.
Actually,
Counselor Wilson.
hi. Is there a future plan to hire a code compliance officer so that that job doesn't fall to the rest of who are all obviously extremely busy to begin with?
I'm not sure.
Down the road, yeah, potential.
Councilmember, one of the issues that the chief and I will be talking with you about at the retreat is doing some restructuring of the police department. And that would include moving some of the code enforcement functions to a community services officer.
Thank you. We had a second?
Faye.
All right. Well, I was told I get to go second because got less to say. So bear with me. So as Melanie said in our first report, I pretty much did an overview of the various different departments that I oversee in Public Works. This is just intended to be a highlight of some of the incredible work that our Public Works team gets done. It's over and above the day-to-day operations that they do. So I'll start off with our utilities division. There's 11 employees in that department, and we finally became fully staffed actually a month ago. We were down to 9 for quite some time actually. But during the last quarter, I guess I would say, we got started again on installing the 12-inch effluent reuse line down Douglas. They installed 300 feet in a day. That project, because we spent 4 months cleaning up the city during the ice storm, really didn't get anything done last year. So we're excited to try to get the 1,000 feet of pipe that we still have in our yard installed and get that line down to Bohemia Park and start using effluent down in the parks. Our staff in utilities cleaned up the 2 unmanaged campsites on Douglas and 12th Street, prepared 6 streets for chip seal, scrub seal, and onyx seal. They rocked and prepared all the golf course paths for chip seal and onyx sealer. And they also prepared all the city streets for striping. We had our summer hires that spent the latter part of summer and early fall painting fire hydrants. We prepared all of our city gravel streets and put dust abatement on them. We also cleaned and videotaped 9,299 feet of sewer lines, installed a new gate, valve, and fire hydrant on Bryant Street. We prepared all of the alleys for the paving that's in conjunction with the Main Street project. And then once the paving was done, went in and adjusted all of our drains, catch basins, and valve boxes. They spent most of the year inspecting all of our meter boxes so that we could finalize a report to the Oregon Health Authority on if we had any lead pipes in our inventory report. And I'm pleased to announce we don't have any lead pipes that we discovered in that inspection. We've cleaned and installed the outlet for the storm drainage ditch at Coiner Park, installed a new fire hydrant for Weyerhaeuser for their plant expansion, mowed the Row River Trail twice, and they cut brush at the North Regional Park, also along Gateway Boulevard, and up at the 22nd future reservoir site. And finally, they built and gravelled an access road from Rachel Road into the new industrial land for Project Sparrow. And they also cut all the brush and grass on that site. Our maintenance division has 9 individuals that work in that department. We just completed the installation of new doors and access control at both the entryway into the community center and also the entry from the front and rear of City Hall. Also installed access control and some interior doors within City Hall to help manage folks going in and out of the facility. We completed and remodeled the remodel of the police department basement offices for the sergeants, set up temporary campsite at the dog park, and then also prepared the new campsite once the former unmanaged site was cleaned up on 12th Street. Spent a great deal of fall and winter on event setup at the Armory and for the Christmas kickoff, and also assisted with the Halloween event. Supported community sharing by installing a backup generator. Secured and oversaw outfitting 4 new police cars. Installed fence around the Douglas Street property for expanding the public works storage capacity. The team built 20 brand new railroad benches for Bohemia Park's expansion. Paid in and installed a water tower base for Bohemia Park. Built numerous office furniture and assisted staff in folks moving to different offices, and performed the routine HVAC generators, garbage pickup, mowing, homeless cleanup. For the golf course, they oversaw the resurfacing of all the cart paths. We also installed surveillance cameras on the clubhouse holes that are overseeing holes number 1, 9, and 18, and also installed cameras out in the golf course on hole number 2, number 13, number 3, then across the freeway for number 5, 8, 17, and also number 6 and 7th green. And then they've been grinding stumps, cleaning up after the ice storm damage. I don't have anything spectacular to add for the water treatment plant, but I'm telling you, those folks do a great job. There's 3 treatment plant operators and a supervisor for the facility. And they just do a great job ensuring that we have safe water to drink. And the wastewater treatment plant, we installed new bearings and shafts for the orbital, repaired the RAS pumps, and also updated their variable feed frequency drives, which operate them, and the operating software. In engineering, we right now are going to do a final walkthrough of Bohemia Park. It appears that it's very close to 100% complete. And our Main Street revitalization project, as you heard, is kicked off, and along with our Cleveland Street improvements project. Our backlot sewer project that is replacing or pulling in new lines in Polk, Taylor, Jefferson, Madison, between Polk and Taylor, between Jefferson, Madison, and Jefferson and Adams. They're finishing up the first pole of Polk and Taylor, and I have some video to show on that. Our stormwater master plan is out for bid and hope to close that on February 26th and bring the council to award on the 24th of March. Our strategic energy management effort that we've been taking, we've had 2 team meetings. All the data has been provided to Energy Trust, and we have site visits scheduled for February 25th. They call that the treasure hunt. That's where we look for energy savings that we can implement on site. Our Recycling Modernization Act, RMA, Shauna has been working with the city manager and also Cottage Grove Garbage to comply with that new act, which will allow them to add new infrastructure to collect additional recyclable materials. Those rules go into effect on July 1st. That being said, the new equipment will probably most likely not be here by July 1st, but they're working hard to bring in those new recyclable material opportunities. In March, we hope to have proposals for a biosolids dryer. That project is still moving on. As I said earlier tonight, our middle school, I didn't say it in this class, but our middle school path will begin design here in the next few months and hope to get that out to bid yet this year to build that portion. We've submitted our application for phase 2 on that path to ODOT and been notified that it's been accepted, and we'll look for a determination, hopefully an announcement of an award in June or July. FEMA, I wanted to give a little bit of an update on FEMA. So all of our documentation has been submitted to FEMA. We have been obligated, so approved to receive $474,735. That is for 4 of our projects. And we hope to see payment in February from the state for that. We are also cautiously optimistic that we will wrap into that February payment another $291,000 for the cart path and work at the golf course. And then our final large ticket item, which was the debris removal, was the total cost of that debris removal is $3,156,401. Right now, if it gets approved with everything that's been submitted at that level, we'll receive reimbursement of $2,367,300. So, and I was able to speak with the state about when that reimbursement should for that final project and be done with our FEMA reimbursement. They're cautiously optimistic that it will beat our deadline of June 30th to close out this fiscal year. So hopefully all of our notes that and loans from intergovernmental departments will be cleaned up before the end of this fiscal year. A huge thank you goes to Shauna for shepherding all that process through. She's done a great job. Resiliency Hub, just received information from Lane County, so I'm going to be providing information. We have a meeting scheduled in late February to go through what's going to be required of us as a city to get the project underway and seek reimbursement. So we're excited about that. And our water master plan is about 85% complete, and hope to have that to the council for review this summer. And finally, I would just announce that also shepherded through Cottage Grove, Crestwell, and Lane County, and received approval for Weyerhaeuser's enterprise zone property tax abatement for their $120 million plant upgrade. So we've been busy. And then I just wanted to show you a few pictures and videos of a couple of the highlighted projects. So this is a splash pad I wanted to show you. It was tested late this fall, early winter. So it does work. And excited to hopefully have some groundbreaking event when the weather is a little nicer and we could have folks out there enjoying all that water. So, but exciting. These are just some pictures of the progress. If you haven't been by Bohemia Park the last week or so, they rolled out all the sod, and essentially we're hoping to have our, just kind of keep going. We're hoping to have our final walkthrough punch list review this upcoming Friday, so we can hopefully call this project completed. It's a beautiful addition. The mural will, for that bathroom, is scheduled to get started when the weather gets better in late spring, early summer. This project is the pipe bursting. Kind of wanted to show you a little bit about it. This picture here is the device that they install at one end that actually pulls the pipe through the old pipe to replace it with the new ones. But yeah, again, just another view. Really what they do is they put a rope through it to begin with in the existing pipe. They pull the rope, which pulls a cable in, and then once they have the cable in, they hook it to a chain, which is what is then hooked to the new pipe, which has a kind of a bullet shaped head on it that kind of pops the existing sewer pipe out and allows the new line to come in. Okay. Yeah, you can keep going. And I think, is this a video? Yeah, so you can see the chain. This is a manhole view. If you want to go ahead and show it, you can kind of see the pipe or the chain. It's hopefully going to pull the pipe here through pretty quickly. I think that's the swelled end, and then the pipe will follow. So the contractor pulls that in, and then as soon as it's in, they go and install brand new connections with each house that was interrupted. Okay, we can go on then. Yeah. All right, go on. I think it's another one where it'll show the pipe, but that kind of shows how that process is. It's really pretty impressive, and I was able to go on site today and look at kind of as they're cleaning up everybody's yards. I was pleasantly surprised that the impact was much less than what I envisioned was going to take place, because this is having to go through between two property owners' backyards to make that happen. And then this one is the stump grinding, and I think that's a video. Just wanted to show a week's period of time. This contractor came in and ground over 150 stumps in a 40-hour week. They'll finish up the project hopefully tomorrow. And he operates that just from the little remote control box from afar. And there's another one here, if you want to show it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And this was a couple pictures of, there's no video, a couple pictures of the effluent pipe going down Douglas Street that our team has been putting in. This was and kind of a surprise when our team got to this point, because we've looked at all of our locates and all of our infrastructure, and these are two storm drainage pipes and another water line that was, luckily we didn't damage them, but we found them in the process. So. And then lastly, this is a picture of the work starting on Main Street. This is our team potholing for where they're going to make the connections of the new water line that's going in. So it's a little bit of public works.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Right. Second quarter budget update, City Manager, Mr. Sauerwein.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. We'll let him pass out the PowerPoint to you here quickly. As we discussed a couple of months ago, my goal is to provide the council with regular updates on what's going on with the city's finances. And so, as we've also discussed, our goal is to always make data-driven decisions that are in the best long-term interest of the city. So what I'd like to do this evening is a couple of things. First, talk about the general fund, the cash carryover, beginning fund balance, give you some highlights on the revenue. And then also with the general fund, go through individual department budgets, again, at a fairly high level, just let you know what's happening financially with different departments. And then we'll look at water, wastewater, including the golf course, and storm drain utilities, and talk about their revenue, how that's shaping up. And I was going to talk about the reimbursement for the storm damage, but they already did that, so I'm not going to talk about it. Just to start moving on with the general fund, as we discussed previously, we start putting our budget together in March, April. And at that time, we establish what we believe will be the cash carryover for the year and the beginning fund balance. We haven't seen our bills for July, August at that point. And quite frankly, sometimes we don't see our bills in until September that were for clear back in May and June. So, there was a difference between what we budgeted for the beginning fund balance and the actual of July 1st. And so how do we address that difference? Well, the steps we've taken to address it, and I think you'll see that we've been fairly successful, is not filling vacant positions, reorganizing some of our city staff, and really scrutinizing our purchasing decisions. Is this a want? Is this a need? And making sure that we know the difference. So just to give a couple of highlights of the general fund, you'll note that when we talked a couple of months ago that we didn't have any of the property tax revenue yet. I'm happy to say that the property tax revenue is coming in because people paid their property taxes. Now, year to date, we've received all but about 5.6% of our budgeted property tax. And I think as we've discussed previously, the rule of thumb that I use is about 3% is usually uncollected. So we still have property tax revenue to come in addition to all the other taxes and fees, cigarette, liquor taxes, franchise fees, land use permits, facility renters, et cetera. So just looking at some of the general fund budgets, if you look at the city council budget, city manager budget, and the finance department's budgets, they're about where we'd expect them to be at this point in the year. Really no surprises here. With the police budget, you'll notice that there is a significant difference between what we budgeted and what our year to date is. And understand that the vast majority of our police budget is personnel costs. As we staff up and as the chief has been successful in filling a lot of the vacant positions, I think within later this year and definitely going into 2025, 2026, you'll see the year to dates and the actual budget be much closer to one another. The municipal court, and again, the court support services, they're about where we expect them to be at this point in the year. Now, I'm going to digress for a little bit here and talk about just the general fund budgets, specifically looking at police and library. And what I want to do is really provide some context here. There are two components of our police budget. There's what we call the police budget, but also our dispatch services through Southline Communications. So we do a transfer of about $750,000 from our general fund to Southline Communications. We'll talk about that in a moment. But really the total cost to operate law enforcement is about $5 million. Our library cost is about 10% of that. My point is this, if you look at the property tax revenue and you look at those two budgets alone, pretty much our entire property tax revenue covers just those two general fund services. This is the reason why we really want to have a conversation with you at the retreat and talk about long-term stable and sustainable funding for these two programs going forward. Because there's a lot more in the general fund than police and library, but those two programs alone really take up our entire property tax revenue. So again, moving on and looking at some of the other budgets within the general fund, maintenance, engineering, our broadband services, again, that's about where we'd expect them to be, 50% through the year. Wanted to highlight community development here for a moment. Again, you'll see a substantial difference between what's budgeted and the year to date. The reason for that is because we had about $950,000 in grant applications that were included in the budget. Understand that we have to budget for the potential revenue from grants, whether we get those grants or not. And in this case, we had a $750,000 downtown grant that we did not receive, and another $200,000 tree planting grant that we haven't heard from yet. So, when you look at the budget document, sometimes numbers like that kind of jump off the page at you, but it's because of the fact that we have to recognize that potential revenue, whether we ever receive it or not. Again, library and community services, they're about where we'd expect them to be at this point here. Community promotions and also our human resources department, kind of along the same lines. So finally, our internal support, you may look at this and think, what's all included in internal support? This is where we house things like our South Lane communications, our dispatch costs, but also our debt service, contingency, and unappropriated ending fund balances is really what makes up the majority of that $2.9 million. Moving on to the water, wastewater, storm drain revenue funds. Again, if you look at the revenue for water, wastewater, and storm drain, they're about where you'd expect them to be. I just would highlight the golf course revenue and show that, we're doing really well in golf course revenue, especially when you think that our biggest months generally are April, May, and June. For old duffers like me that actually want to get out on the course, we usually wait till it's a little warmer outside. So the golf course is doing a really great job of generating revenue on top of us being able to use it. It's really its primary function as a storm drain utility option. So again, as I said, we wanted to talk about the reimbursement for the storm damages. Faye's already covered that. So I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Councilor Settlemyer.
I've heard some good news of some departments that are able to get hiring up to the expected level, but I'm curious, where are you finding vacancies to not fill? I did hear a planning one.
For example, we had an opening in a vacancy that was created in the library, and we did not fill that position. That resulted in us not being open on Saturdays, and from not filling that general fund position. And there haven't been a lot of other vacancies that have materialized. Right. Yeah. I would just point out that really the biggest change is we are doing some reorganization, restructuring of departments, the community services, community center, and also, here at City Hall in the city manager's office, making some changes.
Report from the city manager. Is that?
That would conclude my report, Your Honor.
All right,
Thank you.
Report from city attorney.
Thank you. Well, I don't think it's completely too late in the year to say Happy New Year. It's great seeing all of your faces up here. It's my first opportunity to see all of you sworn in. So this is a brand new council and I'm excited to work with you. Thanks so much. members of the prior council will be familiar with the pre-implementation compliance measures that FEMA required each city that has buildable lands in the floodplains. Each city had to choose a method to move forward, and you'll be hearing more about that at some point in the future. I just wanted to let you know that those of you who are familiar with that Pick'em FEMA choice, FEMA has been sued. And so the argument is that FEMA doesn't have the authority to make local jurisdictions have to jump through this hoop in order to maintain floodplain insurance for itself and its citizens. And so we'll just keep you advised. I wanted you to know that's been filed. The briefing ends tomorrow. Was today the deadline? Okay, so we expect a decision maybe in the next 2 weeks. It's for an injunction, so those move fast, and it would stop FEMA from enforcing these demands that they've made on local jurisdictions.
Can you tell us who brought the lawsuit?
I do have it written down. I can't, no, Oregonians for Floodplain Protection. Not a title that rolls off your tongue, but they're being represented by an attorney, a firm in Seattle, but they're a local Oregon group.
Counselor Urban.
Thank you, Mary. It's my understanding that FEMA was sued into doing this in the first place, basically.
They're really between a rock and a hard place. I mean, if you want to look at it from their perspective, which I don't, that's, they're sort of in trouble either way. They're trying to do the right thing given the decision, the settlement that was entered into after being sued by citizens who wanted wetlands and endangered species to be protected. But they are acting in compliance with that settlement before they went through their formal rulemaking.
Yeah, that was my question. If they're precluded from being able to fulfill the terms of their settlement agreement, what do you do?
Yeah, I represent you. I don't represent them. So yeah, that it's a great question. And I just knew that this was we were waiting for this to come. There were many jurisdictions poised to bring suit. And so we'll just keep you apprised. Along those lines, a different case, the city of Corvallis was sued by a counselor who spoke in public session in a way to get the council to encourage the city manager to fill an empty position. And their charter is more strict than yours. So your charter, it says that no individual counselor can coerce the city manager in the hiring and firing decisions or discipline decisions. Corvallis's charter went further than that. They were precluded from discussions with the city manager regarding city appointments. Cities that have this type of language in their charter that try to limit city councilor pressure exerted upon city managers is closer to yours. So it tries to avoid individual coercion of city managers. It doesn't ever go into precluding discussions in the public setting. And so the city of Corvallis does have this interesting charter language. It goes beyond what you have. I just want to reiterate that. And that language was found unconstitutional. It's an unconstitutional infringement on a councilor's right of free speech. And so I primarily wanted to raise that, not only because we've talked about the right of free speech, you don't lose that when you're elected to office, but if you had heard about it on the street, you might think we have that charter provision and it's now been deemed unconstitutional. And I wanted to reassure you that isn't the case. Corvallis's charter provision is significantly different than yours. Let's see, what else do we have? I can't read my own handwriting. So we are going to be going through some mini trainings. As I mentioned, we have some new counselors and it's always good to have reminders. I know that I've been asked to talk about a franchise 101. What is a franchise? As you have franchise agreements come before you, what are sort of things to think about? What does that word even mean? And I'm guessing we may be having some other mini trainings as we move forward. So we'll just be interspersing those. I'm not sure when the franchise 101's been scheduled, but okay, all right. So that is on one of your future agendas. And then finally, I just wanted to answer Councilor Lammerman's question about how does this council either schedule a work session or how would this council put something on the agenda? And so that is in your council rules. And section 3 talks about calling a meeting. It doesn't only talk about calling regular meetings. It also talks about special, emergency, and work session meetings. And I mean, really a quorum of the council, a majority of a quorum of the council can direct staff to do whatever a majority of a quorum of the council wants. But we would hope that you would take staff's input into consideration, given that there are a lot of business items that need to be dealt with on a certain timeline. So it's a give and take. It's a back and forth. And the same goes for agenda items. 9.1 talks about how to put new items on the agenda, or actually it's section 9, and 9.1 has a majority vote of the council can add an item to an agenda, either a current agenda or a future agenda. Consensus of the council by any council member request to the city manager, which is approved by the mayor or the city manager, or by the city manager or the city attorney. So I just wanted you to know that, many councils have gone through the sort of growing pains to figure out how do we want to consider business? How do we want to consider things that are important to us and our community, but in the context of actually getting other business done that's already set. So I just want you to know the tools that you have at your disposal. Any questions? That was a lot and it was fast in my effort to end by 9.
Councilor Lamberman.
So in regards to FEMA in that case, if their enforcement of the Pickums gets overturned, basically, are we going to need to go through and reverse our decision on that, or has anything been done already that we would have to change?
I can address it, but I'm sure that your associate planner Crow can speak to it too.
Yeah, so Mayor and Councilor Lammerman, all that we ever did was just tell FEMA what we chose. I have not started writing the code because we were expecting this. Now, if for some reason they were to uphold this and we continue, then we will deal with it then. But at this point, no movement has been made, other than if I get a floodplain permit, I have to keep track of the items that they requested, but we have not yet. So we're just waiting at this point.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Conley. All right. Items removed from the consent agenda. There are none. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.